systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, Ship It Nation YouTube station? Happy Memorial Day to everyone out there. Like I said in the chat, thanks for the men and women who serve so we can enjoy our freedoms and bring a nice baseball show on a Monday morning here. So hopefully your Monday morning's off to a good start. Hopefully you had a good weekend. We're here to break it down. I got my guy Matt with me. Matt, I'll bring you in, man. Happy Monday. Happy Memorial Day. Hopefully you had a good week with the family and a good weekend. Hopefully you got to enjoy some of the nice weather that finally is hitting the Midwest here, and we'll definitely talk about that when it comes to hitting environments. Much better than when we were talking in April in 40-degree weather, right? Temperatures kind of rising, so should be fun. We love when temperatures rise in the baseball world, right? Ball usually travels. We see runs scored. We see home runs. That's what we're all playing for. So bring you in, man. Happy Monday. How are you, brother?
I am good, man. Probably the highlight of my day doing the show with you. Get to watch a Cavs funeral later tonight, so not really looking forward to that, but at least we're still hanging by a thread. Yeah, man, it was a good weekend. We had really good weather like all last week. Unfortunately, it got a little gloomy here today, so we'll take it. At least it's not cold anymore, and the sun hopefully just stays out, in the coming days. But yeah, man, excited to break this slate down with you. We didn't get too much of a time to chat before because I was running a little bit behind finishing up the slate plan. But yeah, man, looks like a bunch of good offensive spots to look at. Couple top arms. Interested to hear your takes on this slate and just excited to break it down with you, brother.
Yeah, looking forward to it. In terms of kind of the cash, right, there's two arms, Mizorowski and McLean. It's probably you play those two and then figure out what bats to play, right? There is a lot of pretty solid offensive spots. You can definitely spread out in pitching too, right? So it's kind of a unique slate where, yeah, you got the two guys, the two-headed race kind of above the rest in McLean and Mizorowski. But Miz is up at 11-5, and there is expensive bats. I mean, the Yankees are expensive in Kauffman Stadium, really good hitting weather there. There is some high-priced bats. Obviously, the Cubs. The Brewers, which we're going to talk about, the Mets are starting to hit the ball a little bit as well. And they have some more expensive bats in there with Soto being red hot and Bichette starting to hit, things like that, right? So I don't think it's a slate where you necessarily have to play Mizorowski. He's by far and away kind of the SP1 on the slate, and we'll do everything we can to kind of talk through it and break it down there. But that's kind of the broad slate overview, right? It's Miz, McLean, and then probably the Yankees bats and some Brewers bats and some Cubs bats is kind of what the dry run, if you will, sets up as, right? But let's just do pitching as a whole here with only 6 games on the docket. Let's do all the entire pitching pool, right? So hit on obviously Mizorowski and McLean, the two top arms on the slate. Ownership will follow there. Miz is going to be upwards of 60-some% probably in majority contest, single entry, small field stuff. I wouldn't see, I could see him pushing 80 plus, right? McLean, same thing, going to be kind of right there, right around 50 to 60% owned. And then it's everyone else. Bradish is probably the next guy people go to. A little bit of Zebby, a little bit of McClanahan sandwiched between Mizorowski and McLean. So naturally, I have interest in him being sandwiched between those two. And then you got some cheaper guys, right? Got Ben Brown, historical reliever from last year, now turned into a starter out of desperation for the Cubs. But he's shown strikeout ability last year, gets to pitch out in Pittsburgh in that park there. Think you can play both sides of that, but it's 6,700 on a pitcher slate like this when you know everyone's playing the top two guys up at the top, right? You get a different roster construction there. So I threw a couple names there, but go ahead and give you a rundown here in terms of pitching.
I actually view it really similar to that. I think that Mizorowski is by far the top arm. I mean, because he's the best pitcher in baseball right now. So any spot he's in, he's going to be the top arm on pretty much every slate he's on, except for like special circumstances, a really tough spot. a bunch of other aces on the slate, whatever it is. But a normal slate like today, a smaller slate, he's clearly the top arm. I'm with you in that you don't have to play him because mostly the Yankees themselves, who are the top stack on the board with the highest upside, are really expensive. So if you want to just load up on bats, there are ways that Mizorowski is just good here and not like amazing at that really high price of a salary. But that being said, I don't think he's that hard to fit. So in any one lineup, I'm probably just playing him and moving on. I like McClain a lot as well. He hasn't been quite as good, or maybe a little bit more inconsistent as advertised as I thought he would be coming into the year, but his stuff is still elite. Still a fan of his arm talent. Good spot at home against the Reds. So I think his tag is too cheap. And those two for me are the clear top two arms. I get McClanahan, but he doesn't have the length of those two. He's a little bit more expensive than McClain. I think the matchup is more boom or bust for McClanahan. Like the Orioles haven't been great. They continuously let down, but you go like spot by spot through this lineup and there are a bunch of righties with power. So I have McClanahan third there, but I do think it's them three and then everyone else after them. I'm with you. It's Bradish, Zebby. Those guys are cheap enough for sure where I think you can look at them. I'm not completely buying what Zebby has sold so far in his first two starts. He's been really good. He wasn't great in the minors before then. It's not like he got called up because he was having such a good season. They just needed the length. He's been good, though. And we know he's talented, has strikeout upside. So I'm interested in this spot. Bradish himself, that's a classic both sides are for me. I could see playing Bradish. I could see stacking the Rays. Both sides are really cheap with upside. Bradish has seemingly started to come into his own a little bit this season. Back-to-back monster starts before his last one where he was just okay, not bad. So, yeah, I get that play. And then Ben Brown, I'm glad you brought him up. I think he's cheap enough where he's worth at least looking at. Not exactly sure what to expect from him, but, after the top three arms, I think there's question marks surrounding pretty much everyone, including Will Warren, who has been really good this year, but not a good spot. He's probably a little bit more expensive than I'd like to pay. But all in all, interesting slate in that there's only 6 games, but there's decent pitching options and good stacks. So a bunch of different ways to go today, I think.
Yeah, I like a lot of what you said there. Mizorowski, McLean, obviously the top two arms on the slate. Hard to say. Projections will say that, right? I ran 150 builds projection-wise, and 149 out of the 150 teams had McLean and Mizorowski. The other lone survivor was Kyle Bradish in one lineup, right? So those are kind of obviously the cash game pairing. You can definitely do it in tournaments, right? Just get a little different in your bats if you do that. I do have a little bit more interest in McClanahan. I know the leash, right? The pitch count concerns are there. The props would agree, right? 15.5 K prop plus 111. So 15.5 outs juice to the under, right? So they don't really expect him to go, 6 innings, right? Five and some innings there, 5 1/3, something like that, right? Which does worry me a little bit, but you're going to get him at a fourth of the ownership of McLean and Mizorowski, and he's $2,500 cheaper than Mizorowski and $300 more expensive than McLean. So at ownership, I do think in tournaments, I do like him, even with the pitch count concerns there and the leash. Will Warren, I think he could have a ceiling here. I don't love it. That's the best hitting environment on the slate. I know he's been really good, but I'd rather, if I'm spending that, I'd rather just play McLean or McClanahan. So for me, Will Warren kind of misses the cut. Not playing Michael Wacha against the Yankees. No thanks on that. Zebby Matthews, I don't think this dude is going to be pitching how he's pitching right now in the majors. Like you said, right, his underlying metrics, the stuff in the minors, he's been a guy to attack down there. Now, has he miraculously figured it out? I don't know. I do think you can definitely play some of those White Sox bats. Montgomery's kind of cooled off a little bit, but Murakami's still really good. Vargas has been really good. Antonasi's been good. So I think that's a clear sign of you can definitely play both sides there. But at 7,700, Zebby Matthews does have a ceiling and does have a place on the slate to be playable. So I don't mind him. I'm definitely Kyle Bradish is kind of my third favorite behind Mizorowski and McLean. It's probably a toss-up between him and McClanahan, but with the $2,000 savings, I do think Kyle Bradish is really interesting. I'm with you there. I like Ben Brown a lot at 6,700. Think he's great. Not messing with Anthony Kay. Not messing with Modzinski or Liberatore. I think on a different slate, you could definitely play those guys, but I just don't think this is the slate to do it. Probably if they hit your builds, I wouldn't kind of throw it out just because Mod is going to leverage the Cubs chalk in terms of hitting, and same thing with the Brewers, who are going to pick up some ownership on the bat side, and he is kind of a ground baller over there. So I can definitely see a path to success here. But for me on this slate, I don't like those guys too much. So it's a pretty condensed pitcher pool. The only other guy I would throw in is Nick Lodolo. The reason being is he's 7,500. Nobody's going to play him. He has a 4.5K prop, heavy juice to the over there. It's not great, but he's pitching in Citi Field, which is a good pitcher's ballpark there. The Mets more people are going to be on the Mets than they're going to be on the Lodolo. And I could see a ceiling for Nick Lodolo, not even a ceiling, but I could see him outscore a guy like Kyle Bradish at a fraction of the ownership, outscore a guy like Zebby Matthews, and be kind of that SP2 that you can see hit winning builds. So I do have some interest in him, but he's kind of clear behind the rest of the guys there. So for me, my pitcher pool kind of looks like these 7 guys mainly, but really the focal point is Miz and McLean for sure, just like everybody else there. Kyle Bradish, I think, would be 3rd, just like everyone. So nothing too contrarian there, but sometimes that's just how it goes. Like I said, the contrarian guys would be McClanahan, Lodolo, Brent Brown are kind of my favorites there as kind of lower owned options. Any additional pitcher breakdown from you?
I don't think so. I think we see it pretty much eye to eye.
Awesome. Let's let me jump over here and refresh the stone and talk through the hitting side of it in terms of the 6-game offensive battles here. First game up in Pittsburgh, Modzinski on the mound, Ben Brown on the mound. We had interest in Ben Brown. The Cubs look pretty good here for sure. Modzinski has shown to be a decent arm, but Pirates bullpen, nothing crazy. Middle of the road, kind of right, dead in the middle. In terms of weather here, it is going to play more hitter-friendly than normal, but we know historically this is still more of a pitcher's ballpark here. Temperatures kind of in the mid-70s, a little wind blowing out, nothing crazy. So I think the Cubs lefties look really good here. Modzinski struggles against left-handed hitters. Cubs also realize that, bumps PCA all the way up to the top. Ian Happ, Bush, they're throwing 3 lefties at him right away. Bregman has been hitting top of that lineup all year. He's been decent. Conforto's been really good. Pedro Ramirez, you get a $2,200 guy who has shown some power, has a little speed as well. I think he's a good play at that price point because he fits 2 of the weaker positions when you're building teams, right? Second base, third base, usually pretty weak. And then Ballesteros. So I love the lefties mainly for the Cubs, but I do think the Cubs kind of check in as one of the top stacks. And yeah, we do like Ben Brown, but I mean, this dude was a bullpen arm and kind of thrusted into the starting rotation out of necessity with all the injuries the Cubs had. And Cubs bullpen, nothing crazy special behind them. The Pirates, right? The lefties, Horwitz, Lowe, Reynolds, Cruz, that top 4, and then Connor Griffin's been hitting as well, and always has stolen base upside. So I think this is a pretty solid offensive spot. And yeah, we had interest in Ben Brown, but it was more the salary and the price tag and what it unlocked for your roster. I think both sides are interesting, but definitely a lean to the Cubs side for me. And you want the lefties on both sides here.
Yeah, I think what makes the Pirates interesting is that not that Ben Brown's some trash can or anything. It's that they're going to be really low owned, and the Cubs will just be average owned. So I think the Cubs are in a better spot on paper, but man, they've been kind of atrocious recently. They had a decent game yesterday, but they're on a big losing streak. They've been very up and down this entire season. Couple 10-game winning streaks already. I think they're on like a 8-game losing streak right now. All that being said, don't really care about that from a DFS perspective. All we care about is today. And they're in a good spot against Modzinski. I don't think they're the top stack on the slate, but I don't think the field thinks so either. So I wouldn't mind planting my flag on the Cubs. As I mentioned earlier, I think there's like 4 or 5 stacks that look really good here, like outside of the Yankees, who look like the best in my opinion. So you have the Yankees, then like 4 or 5 other teams that look also really good that are nipping at the Yankees' heels that I think you could make a case for prioritizing in tournaments. And I think the Cubs are definitely in that group.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. So it sounds like we agree there. Pirates definitely have a place on the slate as kind of a lower owned team, and won't be shocked to see the Pirates also run as well, right? O'Neal Cruz, Connor Griffin will definitely run, and then Horwitz, Reynolds, those guys have shown some power up at the top there. So yeah, definitely think it's a pretty interesting game overall there. Takes us to the next one. I'm more on pitching in this one. I do think you can definitely play some of the bats, but I'd rather play some of the Pirates over either of these teams, right? We probably differ a little bit here just because when I take a look at this slate, I already like a decent amount of offense. Not the best place to hit here, and the weather isn't great. I mean, yeah, it's in the 70s, but some wind blowing in, nothing too spectacular there. I like other spots more. Can't play everyone. I do think Caminero, Aranda, Diaz, Chandler Simpson, and Seti Mullins, who's been good. Those are kind of the guys from the Rays that you'd have interest in. You're going to get some quote unquote leverage off of Bradish, who's probably the SP3 in terms of ownership on the slate, right behind Miz and McLean. So in that regard, think it's interesting. But when you add in the Baltimore bullpen being the best in baseball, so far, it's a little strange. I'd rather pick on McClanahan more with the Orioles. Some of those righty powers. Adley's been really good this year. Pete Alonso murders lefties. Think he's good. Weston Wilson historically hits lefties pretty good. There's some pitch hit risk there. Taylor Ward has made a living on hitting left-handed pitching. And then we already know McClanahan's not going to go super long. Props would agree. And you take a look at the Tampa Bay Rays bullpen, 5th worst in baseball in terms of xFIP. So the Orioles is definitely my preferred side if I was going to a side in this game, even though I think McClanahan's a really good tournament option and a tournament arm. There is leash concerns there. And if he goes his 5 innings, you still have four innings potentially of that Rays bullpen, which isn't the best. What do you see here in this one?
No, I don't disagree with you at all. I think the Rays, just because of how good they've been against right-handed pitching this year and because of Bradish's inconsistencies, are in play at least because they have upside. But I'm with you. They're not like my top stack or anything like that. I think they belong in that group with the Cubs, but I wouldn't fault you. I probably do like the Cubs a little bit more, but I have to acknowledge the Rays' upside and how good they've been against right-handed pitching this year. I could also get on board with some of the Orioles guys, as you mentioned, really, really low owned. They've got power. Obviously the guys that you want, you're paying for. So that's probably my biggest hesitation to get there, but small slate, low ownership, upside. I'm about it.
Yeah, we definitely agree there. Overall, takes us to the next game here. We're going to Chicago. Zebby Matthews, Anthony Kay on the mound. Twins, not been a great offense by any means. There's definitely some pinch hit concerns in here. Guys like Austin Martin, Gonzalez, some of these righties, once Kay's out of there, right? If he goes his 4 innings, you're definitely going to get some pinch hit guys, but guys like Byron Buxton, Brooks Lee up at the top, I think are interesting. Definitely Buxton, obviously a lefty masher, 5,900 is an expensive price point, but Brooks Lee at third base, shortstop, 3,700. I think he's a decent value. At the ownership here that the Twins are kind of showing, I don't like them much here, and I get the reason, right? Anthony Kay's not good. The bullpen behind him is not great. I just don't love this spot here for the Twins. I'd actually rather play the White Sox side of this game. And some of those lefties, like I said, Antanasi, Murakami, Vargas, Montgomery. That top 4 is really good. Benintendi's been solid all year. So if you wanted a 5-man stack, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. I think that's really interesting. Romo as a kind of mid-tier cheap catcher has shown some upside and some power. I definitely prefer the White Sox side. And you talk about bullpens. I mean, the Twins bullpen is by far and away the worst bullpen in baseball. This White Sox team has upside. They're better than they were last year. They're better than people give them credit for. And yeah, give me the ownership discount on the White Sox here, attacking Zebby, who I think gets played as kind of that SP2 option, right? People are looking at Bradish. They're looking at Zebby as kind of the first 2 stops if they're not playing McLean and Mizarowski. So I think the White Sox in tournaments here, pretty dang interesting. What do you see in this one?
No, I see it exactly the same as you, except maybe I like the Twins more than you. That said, I get your point. Like, they're owned, so the field is already there. I don't love playing the Twins into ownership, so the White Sox really intriguing today. Mentioned it before. Zebby has been good in his 2 starts, but he was not good in the minors before that. He got lit up in spring training. Like, this is a guy that gives up power, and he's had plenty of starts in the past where he's gotten destroyed. So you look at a White Sox lineup that's pretty boom bust. We just saw it in San Francisco. I think they scored 10 runs in the opening game of that series. You get a bad Twins bullpen. Yeah, I get the White Sox for sure here. And then the Twins, I said it. Like, I like them. I'm just a little bit cautious that our ownership. We'll have to wait and see, like, kind of how that settles with still a bunch of time before the slate starts. But as of now, I get playing the Twins, but I also get, like, not playing them considering where ownership is and how many other good stacks are on this slate. They fall right in line in that Cubs group for me.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. I look at the Twins bullpen already being the worst in baseball, and then I look at their bullpen usage over the last 3 days, 45, 35, 32, 30. I mean, they're pretty taxed. A lot of those arms in there, which aren't already good arms, right? So I do think on a slate where the White Sox are going to come in as a stack as kind of 5% owned across 5 hitters, right? I think it's really interesting on a tournament. And team total, right? They're favored in this game, over a 4 implied run total. I do think things shake up pretty good. Twin side, Buxton, Lee are rough iron away. It'd probably be Buxton, Lee, and Josh Bell there, because I don't really want to mess with the pinch hit guys. Austin Martin's a pinch hit risk. Gonzalez, Creedler, some of these righties, right? The Twins are known historically for pinch hits, especially with all of those lefties, right? Guys like Larnach, Wallner, all of those guys on the bench. You could see 2 to 3 of these guys at least get pinch hit for, and that hurts a stack overall. So with the pinch hit concerns, I do side with the White Sox side of this game more, not just because of ownership, but also add in the bullpen and the pinch hit risk there as well. Next game on the slate, Cardinals and the Brewers. Mizorowski, best starting pitcher on the mound. He can give up a home run or 2 at times, right? When you throw 110 miles an hour, it feels like. I mean, put the barrel on it and it'll go. The roof is going to be open in Milwaukee here tonight. I did call the hotline and check that out. Temperatures are going to be in the 80s. Beautiful day here in Milwaukee. Liberatore, like I said, on a different slate, if you wanted to, you could pitch him, but I don't think it's a slate to do so. I love the Brewers here today. They're my favorite, quote-unquote, pivot off of the Yankees. I think they're both going to be kind of stacked 1 and 2 in terms of ownership, but Yankees are far and away going to be higher owned than the Brewers. So give me the Brewers here against Liberatore, and then the Cardinals bullpen is just absolutely atrocious behind Liberatore. So I'm on my Brewers here. Lost 2 of 3 to the Dodgers there, but got the better half of their rotation there. I think the Brewers rally here behind Mizorowski overall. So what do you see in this one?
Yeah, no shame losing 2 or 3 to that Dodgers squad. I mean, you get Yamamoto on the hill, it's the Dodgers. So I thought that was a real competitive series. I like the way the Brewers look right now. And I'm going to continue picking on these Cardinals pitchers who I think are just waiting to come back down to earth. Both Liberatore and McGreevy, who I think we get tomorrow. These guys, I don't know how they're doing it, but they keep doing it, getting by with smoke and mirrors. We saw McGreevy last start finally got a little bit. And I'm going to keep picking on Liberatore and McGreevy. So we get Liberatore today. Brewers offense, which I like. They run. Yeah, I'm in on the Brewers here. They're definitely in that Cubs group for me, but they might be at the top of that list. I like them a lot here. Liberatore is just a pitcher I want to pick on. I don't think he's like a gas can, but I think that he isn't as good as he's been so far this season, and he gives up power when he's not right. So I'm in on the Brewers, not in on the Cardinals at all here.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals, I would look at Weatherholt, Herrera, Burleson, Walker. I think if you really wanted to, I think those 4 guys, you could play really any slate, matchup dependent. Not that you want to pick on Mizorowski and his 41% K rate, but if they do find the bat, right, I think there is some upside there. And the Brewers pen did get pretty taxed in that Dodgers series, right? Because obviously we got the Dodgers on the back half, our 4, 5, and 6 arms. So when that happens and you're facing the best lineup in baseball, right, your bullpen tends to take a hit. So with that added in, and Mizorowski has left his last two starts early, right? I think it's more precautionary just because obviously he's the franchise for the Brewers. So I think it's more precautionary. But if he does leave after 6, and even if he strikes out 10 of these dudes, I mean, you still get four innings of a pretty taxed Brewers bullpen. Don't love it. Definitely prefer the Brewers side of this one. I mean, Liberatore, he's been a fly ball guy so far this season. Is getting barreled up at a 13% rate to both sides of the plate, and this Brewers team can hit the ball, and they'll also run. Now, obviously, this is more of a full stack or bust for me because it's hard to pick out individual hitters that you really love for the Brewers against left-handed pitching. Andrew Vaughn, Contreras, Chourio would be the 3 that I would start with overall. But yeah, this is a full stack, and just you got the bad bullpen behind, and those lefty bats are going to have platoon advantage later in that game, which can definitely help guys like Terang, Yelich, Garrett Mitchell overall. So Brewers, my favorite stack overall, and not just because I'm a Milwaukee homer. I just think Liberatore's pitching over his head, and when you get barreled that much as a starting pitcher, like the wheels are going to fall off sooner than later. And I'll take the slight ownership discount off the Yankees overall with the roof open here at home in a good home run park already.
One thing I'll say about the Cardinals too, we saw a spot earlier this year where Paul Skeens was like uber chalk against them, and they got him. So like Mizorowski is amazing, and I'm not going to stack the Cardinals against him, but like he's not going to have, he's not going to have perfect starts every start this season. And also, to your point, like it's a small slate. You're going to get a few innings of the bullpen. Maybe looking at a Cardinals bat or two, if you're not playing Mizorowski, makes some sense here.
Yeah, I just think in lineups where I'm not playing Mizorowski, I'm going to have a ton of Mizorowski, obviously. But in lineups where I'm not, I don't think it's the worst play to throw 1 or 2 of these Cardinals in there, especially like a Herrera, right, at a catcher position, which everyone's going to play the Yankees catchers or play William Contreras, or they're going to play Ballesteros right from the Cubs. I think that's an interesting roster construction there. That makes a lot of sense. Andrew Martinez says, can you rank the Brewers for me? Andrew Vaughn, number 1, Chourio, number 2, Contreras, number 3. And then it's probably Bowers and then Yelich. I know lefty isn't great, but Bowers has just been hitting beach balls. He can hit left-handed pitching anyways overall, and same thing with Yelich. So those would kind of be the 5 that I would start with. But don't forget about Terang. Renjifo's been showing some signs of upside, and for whatever reason, when the Brewers are popular and everybody's on the Brewers, nobody plays Joey Ortiz, and that's usually when he hits a home run. So I'll say don't forget about Joey Ortiz at 2,500. He'll also swipe a bag or two too. And if he swipes you a bag at 2,500 at shortstop on a slate like this, when you want to play up for an 11-5 Mizorowski and a McLean at 8,700, right? 2,500, he gets you a walk and a stolen base, 7 points. That goes a long ways, right, at that, and you can wrap it around to the top. So all 9 for sure in play for me, but those top 5 that I listed would be kind of the focal points there overall. Next spot, by far and away the best hitting environment on the slate here. 2 games left to talk about. We're in Kauffman Stadium with the new dimensions, and we got mid-80s to upper 80s, like 88 by the end of this game. Going to be hot and humid in Kansas City with some wind blowing out here at right around 11 to 12 miles an hour. And you got Michael Wacha, who is a decent real-life pitcher, not a great DFS pitcher. He's decent, but, man, Yankees against any right-handed pitcher, especially with this park, this weather, they haven't been hitting great lately, but this team is very, very, very tough to kind of go the distance with. Anytime a righty, Yankees by far and away the best stack on the board on paper. Does it come to fruition? Well, we'll have to wait about 5-6 hours to figure that out. But on paper, by far and away the best stack overall. Kansas City bullpen behind Wacha, not good. 4th worst in baseball in terms of xFIP. Will Warren's been really good. I don't think it's the craziest play to play the Royals at no ownership really on the other side of this game. Obviously, Garcia, Witt get ownership anytime, and Perez at that price get ownership anytime they're on the slate. So that's kind of inflating. But as a stack here, I think the Royals also pretty interesting. It is tough. Will Warren's a good arm. Yankees bullpen is good. So there's definitely downside here, but biggest game total on the slate, best hitting conditions on the slate. And I think this is definitely an interesting one on both sides.
Yeah, so I'm not buying that the Yankees are going to be like as highly owned as they're projected industry wide. simply because of their price tags. And it's not like an obvious, easy spot. Waka is not a gas can. Waka is good. He's not great. He's good. Like you said, he's not an elite DFS pitcher, but he's better in real life. He's not the type of pitcher people go out of their way to target. Now, to your point, it's the Yankees against the righty. I think they're the top stack on the slate, but I do think the majority of people are going to want to prioritize the pitchers, Mizorowski and McLean, and it's hard to full stack the Yankees using those two. So I'm not overly worried about their ownership. That said, I do think they'll be one of the highest owned teams, clearly, because they look so good. They're projected for the highest total, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know how I feel about them because Waka, again, isn't a gas can. They're really expensive, and there are a bunch of other good offenses to play. This is a classic. I think you can obviously make good lineups if you want to prioritize the Yankees. I also don't think you have to prioritize the Yankees in tournaments at all. We talked about the Brewers, the Cubs, the White Sox. You talked about, like, there are other good offenses today. So I do think the Yankees upside alone makes them the top stack. They're not like I have to jam them in tournament type play for me. And then the Royals. I mean, you mentioned it. Like, Warren is a good pitcher, but he's also not like infallible to getting hit or anything like that. He can get got. The Royals just got to Brian Wu yesterday. They got to George Kirby the day before that. Like, this is an offense that hasn't been good this year, but maybe they're starting to see the ball well at home. I don't hate them on this slate. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but I really don't hate them. For me personally, I would play them over. I would play Will Warren on this slate.
Yeah, I would as well. You want the lefties against Will Warren, where he's a league average arm against lefties. He just is. Between this year and last year, 21% K rate, an 11% walk rate as well. And he gets barreled up at a 11% rate to the left-handed hitters. Carter Jensen, Michael Massey, Caglione, Vinny P. There's 4 lefties that all hit right-handed pitching really well this year. Don't strike out a lot, obviously outside of Jensen and Caglione, but they have power to offset that. And then you got Bobby Witt, Sal Perez is cheap. You got a cheap switch hitter in Isbell and Isaac Collins. So I think, I think the Royals are really interesting. And on the Yankees, it's actually the righties you want more than the lefties. I mean, Waka is reverse splits. Overall, he gets hit really hard by righties. Doesn't get hit as hard against the left side, right? So Judge, Goldschmidt, Caballero. If Goldschmidt starts against a righty, he's probably pinch hit concern free as well. So I don't know. But if he's in there, I think I'd start with those 3 if I'm going to the Yankees. And you're going to get a little bit ownership discount because guys like Grisham, Ben Rice, Bellinger are going to be probably 3 of the highest owned bats on the slate. Obviously, Judge is going to get ownership there. But I think adding in a guy like Caballero as a righty, there's always stolen base upside with him as well. Goldschmidt at 4,200. You play Goldie over Ben Rice, your Yankee stacks are instantly different, right? Because historically, you want Ben Rice against a right-handed pitcher, right? Makes sense. But Waka has actually been reverse splitsy over his career, right? So I think the Yankees on paper, by far and away the best stack, but I can definitely see the downside here for sure. They haven't been that great lately. They had to hit a walk-off home run last night on Aaron Judge, right, to win that game. So I can definitely see the downside. And we've seen this before, Matt, right? How many times have we seen the Yankees on paper look by far and away the best stack? Everyone goes in and slams them, and they go out there and hit. They score 3 runs, right, on a solo shot or a 2-run shot, something like that, and everyone's tilting their faces off. I've just seen this way too many times. It feels like with this Yankees offense, more so than anyone else overall. So there's definitely a spot in tournaments here where Yankees don't get there, right? And we already talked about a lot of other teams. I'm going to like the Mets in the next game, the Royals, right, the Brewers, the White Sox, the Cubs, the Pirates, right? Some of those teams, I won't be shocked to see them outscore the Yankees here. And if Mizorowski goes out there and gets you 11 strikeouts, 12 Ks, whatever, scores 30 plus again, and McLean does his thing, maybe it's not the Yankees, right? Because of their price points there overall. Last game on the slate, Citi Field, Nolan McLean on the mound, Nick Lodolo. I had interest in both of these pitchers, but overall, Mets look pretty good here against Lodolo. Lodolo, a fly ball guy, kind of a guy we've always just stacked against. Hasn't usually worked out. Vientos, Semien, Bichette. I mean, Bichette's been hitting. Juan Soto's red hot right now. Lefty doesn't matter too much with him. Carson Benj It always has the stolen base upside there. I think the Mets kind of fit in that kind of Cubs tier for me with the Cubs. I got the Yankees and Brewers kind of ahead, and then it's the Cubs and the Mets, the White Sox, and the Pirates are kind of right there. So I think the Mets kind of fit in with those guys. But what do you see here last game to round us out?
I'll like the Mets a lot more if Soto's back in that lineup. That lineup just takes a huge hit without him in there. I know he was sick yesterday, I believe. So, yeah, even with him out, I think they're in play because Lodolo is not good. But he's one of the best bats on the slate. So I'd prefer them if he's in. I'm with you. I think they belong in that tier. They look good here. It's more of picking on Lodolo than like how much we want to use the Mets. But the Mets are another team. They've got talent in their lineup, especially against left-handed pitching. So, yeah, I'm on board with the Mets here. The Reds, McLean isn't Mizorowski. Like, he hasn't been as good as Mizorowski. He's just not that arm. He's still really good. I don't love the Reds against good righties like this on the road, so I'm probably out on them. But it's a small enough slate where I wouldn't, like, fight anyone who wanted to play some Reds. Mostly – or not even mostly. This game is all about the Mets for me, McLean and the Mets offense.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Just looking at the small sample from like the last 30 days, right? 80 plate appearances against lefties, 186 ISO fly ball rate, right around 30%. So when you peel back the onion and look as a longer term, right? He's kind of splits neutral, has just been good to both sides of the plate, but recently, he has been somewhat gettable from the left side. So J.J. Bleday, Nathaniel Lowe have murdered right-handed pitching this year. I think those two are interesting. And then Ellie as a spend-up shortstop to get off of guys like Caballero in that I think are interesting there. More guys are going to play a guy like Bobby Witt up in that tier or spend down to a guy like Caballero. So I think Ellie, Bleday, Lowe makes some sense. Stewart, you could obviously always play there, but I don't love throwing a righty there at McLean and chasing that 33% K rate. So it'd be Bleday, Lowe, Ellie, De La Cruz. I think that's an interesting little 3-man mini stack there. And hey, maybe that's a lineup where you go Shane McClanahan, right? Over Nolan McLean. You spend up $300. You're kind of flipping the build there. You got Bleday and Cruz are obviously expensive, but Low at 3,600 can make it work, and you can play maybe some of those value, the Royals, right, who are super cheap on this slate, and kind of flip it that way. So I think there's definitely a spot for some of those Reds, but the game is definitely focused around the Met side, hitting and pitching. Matt, that's all 6 games. We talked pitching, we talked hitting, we kind of flew through it here overall. Time for the end of the show here. Your favorite pitching combination. And then your top 3 stacks, and then home run call to round us out.
I'm gonna take the easy route with the pitching and go Miz and McLean. I think those two are just the top 2 for me, and it's gonna take a lot for me to get off those guys. Top 3 stacks, we'll go Yankees, we'll go Brewers, we'll go Cubs, and I'm gonna take my home run is gonna be not off one of those teams. It's gonna be the light bulb kind of went off when you mentioned it. You want the lefties against Will Warren. Caglianone gets one today.
I like that a lot. I'll go Miz, and for the sake of the show, I'll go Ben Brown as a kind of a value guy there.
I like it.
Yeah, I think Ben Brown has a place on the slate at 6,700. Gets you a little different roster construction than kind of the 2 spend-up arms, which majority of builds and tournaments are going to be focused around. For me, my overall favorite stack is going to be the Brewers. I'll put Yankees number 2. And then I'll go Mets 3 behind the Cubbies there. So I'll do the Mets. My home run call here. I'm gonna go to the Brewers. I'm gonna go to Mr. Willie Contreras here, who hit an absolute piss missile against the lefty earlier a couple days ago. There, I think he gets another one. 4,200. He's gonna be owned, but I don't care if he gets me that home run shot. It doesn't matter. 4,200, good price point there. So I'm going to go Willie Contreras hits one deep in left center field in American Family Field. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. Happy Memorial Day, like I said, to everyone out there. Thanks to all the men and women who served so we can enjoy this nice baseball on this Monday, no work, and enjoy the freedoms we do have. So never forget that. If you're not a member yet, shipitnation.com. $19 gets you at 5-day access to everything we have to offer. You got PGA, you You got NBA playoffs going on right now. You got the NHL playoffs going on right now. We got NFL right around the corner. We got best ball going on. So we got all things covered. $19 gets you a trial there. If you're just a baseball junkie like us, we got you covered all summer long. You can get in with an optimizer for under $50 a month with all of our premium baseball content and SaberSim with the ability to build up to 150 lineups. So no better rate than over here at The Nation. Like I said, appreciate everyone tuning in. Enjoy your afternoon. Hopefully you're doing some grilling out, cooking, enjoying the weather with some family and friends. And hopefully you got some sweats in the early afternoon after these games get rolling. Matt, appreciate you jumping on here. It's been a pleasure breaking down the show like it is every single week. For Matt, I'm Nate. Go.